In our everyday life, we come across things. We talk about people, we also talk about places, and sometimes we talk about ideas. All these words have a particular name in our own languages. In English, we call them nouns. Welcome to my new video about nouns. My name is Nasa Gorsi, and in today's video, we'll just study types of nouns and what are nouns, all about nouns, in detail with examples. In this picture on the slide on my left side, you could see a beautiful study table. You could see a chair, a table, some books, a pen, a trash can, some books, and a cupboard or drawer, whatever you call it in your own language. All these things we can touch, we can feel, or we can just sit on or do anything. They are available, they exist. They are also nouns. Next slide. So today in the lesson 2, in the last video I discussed something about the parts of speech. So in today's video, number 1 part of speech is the nouns. We'll discuss it in details. Next slide. So a noun is a word that labels a thing or an idea. They're also sometimes called naming words. For example, if I'm wearing a shirt, I would call it a shirt. It's a noun. If I don't have a word for shirt, I can't go and buy something, give me this, because I must have a word for that. Even if you think about it, you can't recall a name, you can't buy it. If you go to alien country, if you go to an alien country or some place where you can't speak the language of the local guys, so you will definitely feel lots of trouble, and then you try to find a translation, like what are the words we call them, with what name. So that's how nouns are helpful. We use nouns as a subject in a sentence or as an object of a sentence. That thing will be covered. How do we use nouns in detail in the next video. But in today's video, we'll study the types of nouns. Next slide. Next slide. In total, we got 10 types of nouns. 10 total. I don't have 11 fingers, just 10. So first is common noun. Next, proper noun, singular nouns, plural nouns, concrete nouns, abstract nouns, collective nouns, compound nouns, countable nouns, and of course when you have countable, you have uncountable nouns. Now we'll study each of the noun types in detail. Some grammarians also give you 8 types, 9 types, or 11 types. Here I will be discussing only 10. Some of the nouns as the name themselves, as the name itself speaks out, like countable or uncountable, you can have a guess. There is another word for the word guess. It's called conjecture. Next slide. Let's study nouns in details. Common nouns. Common noun is something like it's very common, but you don't have a name for that. You just call it in a collective thing kind of. So they refer to a broad class of people, places, or things like coffee, you could say, or and they don't have a name for that. If you have a name, it will be something else. But for example, if you have a state, which state? When you say China, so I would use the word China with letter C, capital. Then it's not the common noun, it's a proper noun, because the word state can have any state. So you could also call them non-specific because they are not specific in nature. For example, an author of the book this. When you say the name of the author, you will use the first letter of the word as capital. Or a country or a language. By the way, any language you talk about, French or Russian or Arabic or English, you must use the first letter of that language word, the name, as capital. A planet or rocket, like Elon Musk, he's a rocket man, you could call him. Next slide. Then we have proper nouns. This is the second type of noun we're going to do today. They refer to specific people, particular places or things. How? For example, if I talk about a building, we don't know which building are we talking about. So if I say Taj Mahal, in India we have Taj Mahal here, we could call it the Taj Mahal, and it has a name for that, so you will use it, T as capital letter, in Raj Bhavan or any building, any big building, like you got Parliament, you got you got a White House, for example, in the US. So you would use the first letter of that word as capital. Next slide. So we got a state like Tokyo. It's a proper noun. You could say state like Los Angeles. State in a general term is a very big term. It's technically on political scenario we call it a country, but here we just talk about city. It's a name. So when you get idea that a proper noun means something proper, not not without anything specific. So you have to use the first letter as capital. Next is Steve. It can be your name also. What's your name, by the way? Please type it in the comment box. Next is a White House or Taj Mahal or any capital complex building that has a name for that. Next letter. Next slide, sorry. Next we have singular nouns. Singular nouns can be called as like anything that is single, like me. So singles, my friend who is holding the laptop is helping me out. His name is Sharik Zaman. Is laughing at the moment because he's sad when he believes I'm single. So nouns can either be singular or plural. The word is plural. And when I say single, that means they refer to something single. Like in the next slide, we have a house, cat, girl, foot, or country. When you have single, you have to make the double also, because you have some nouns which don't have the plural word for them. For example, we'll do it in the next slides. So in a plural sense, now we have the plural slide, it refers to more than one of something. Most of the singular nouns just need an S when you want to talk about them plural, but there are some plural things like media. The word has been taken right from medium. Media means many. Mass media we usually call it. Stadium, stadia. So these are the words which are a little different, which don't use S with them. But here we use S because they are plural. And I say not all of them have S. For example, we have bee. One bee. Bees are my favorite, by the way, honeybees especially. Then you have bees. You have added an S letter. By the way, these are called letters. They are not alphabets. Alphabet means A to Z is one alphabet. Alif to what's the last letter of the Urdu word? Badi A. So we call it Alif to Badi A. It's a whole alphabet of Urdu or Arabic like this. Next slide. Some nouns already end with an S letter, and when you have to make their plural, you use ES. In the example given below, you have class or classes, bus and buses. Next slide. Now we have fifth type of noun. We call it concrete. Concrete nouns. These nouns refer to things that exist physically, that can be touched, that can be felt, smelt, or even tasted. Taste food. Okay. Next slide. So, for example, you got beautiful flowers or flowers in whatever way you want to pronounce them. It's right. In British English, you call them flowers, and US you call them flowers. And beautiful flowers. You can smell them, you can touch them, you can feel them, you can pluck them. I would not recommend that. You have a couch, you have a sofa, you can sit on it, or even sleep on it. Next slide. You can have a building, you have trees, anything that you can touch, feel, smell, eat, or do like it exists in the physical manner. It is called a concrete noun. Next slide. A building, as I said. Now we have abstract nouns. They are just the opposite of concrete nouns. There are many things that exist. They exist, but you can just feel them, you can't see them, you can't touch them, you can't smell them, you can't even eat them. For example, we have concepts like social concepts, democracy, right? We have political theories, characteristic traits, or for example, love. You can feel it, it exists, but you can't see it, you can't touch it. Next slide. We have an example. Last slide, please. Last slide. Thank you. Excitement. It's a noun. It's a beautiful noun. So it exists something, when you know at the end of the video, when you know that, noun, you know the nouns, maybe you feel a little excited now, you know the nouns. Next slide. Bravery. Bravery is something you already know, like Superman or the strong leaders do in our country or your country. Next, happiness. It exists. I wish you all the happiness of the world. May God bless all of you. Love, happiness, sadness, feeling, they all are nouns. Next slide. Anger is also a noun. It's a feeling, although, but again, it's a trait of a person. Next slide. Love, the most beautiful thing that also exist in the world. Now we have collective nouns. They are the words for single things that are made up of more than one person, animal, thing, or an idea. And for example, we discuss a team as a single entity. Next slide. For example, class. It's a class. If there is no student, you can't call it a class. It's a group of students and of course a teacher. Pride, you call it the pride of lions. Like, I don't have lions, in this forest at least. We have many animals here. So it's always a pride of lions because lions live in a group. You have a pack of dogs or pack of wolves. You have a flock of sheep. So we have different words. Choir it's a group of musicians that play at the background music or something, even in the orchestras. I love it. I really love it. Next we have the compound nouns. So a compound noun combines two words in one, and many of them are connected by a hyphen. Sometimes they are not connected by a hyphen. So for example, you have a word called school teacher. So okay, we'll do the toothpaste one. We know what is this. If you don't know, I would recommend that you buy one and use it. Toothpaste, toothpaste, toothpaste. We had a Dr. Saab, and he said he would always use the word Colgate. He would not say I would brush my teeth. He would just say I will do the Colgate and come back. Next slide. Airport, air, and port. It could be seaport or truck yard. It could be a school teacher. Next slide. Firefly. We know what's firefly. We used to see as a kid lots of fireflies around us, but these days, because of the environment degradation and pollution, we hardly see them around. School teacher. School teacher can also be two words, but again, it's one thing, so you could call it a compound noun. It depends on the style sheet. You have different newspapers or magazines or media houses, they run that. For example, the media house I was working with long time ago, they take school teacher as one word, school children as one word. So again, it depends, but both are right. Next slide. Countable nouns. Something which can be counted, like a cat, 2 cats, 3 cats. Next slide. Now I'll show you. This is my cat. It is a he. It's a Tom, but we call him Anna. So this is a cat. Next slide. 2 cats. Next slide. 3 cats. So when you see 3, you call 3. You can't call these numbers with all the things. You can't use that. For example, with furniture, you can't say furnitures. You can't say equipments. It's always singular. So with some things you can use numbers and s or es. Next slide. For example, it was my car. Not now. It was my car. So it's a 1 car. Next slide. 2 cars and 2 me. All right. So you could also say, like, my cousin, my 2 cousins, 1 book, 5 books, 10 books, 1 tree, 2 trees, or a city or several big cities. So these are called countable nouns. Next slide. Last one is uncountable noun. Something it cannot be counted, but it does exist. So they do not have a distinction between a singular and plural, and they cannot be counted because they cannot easily be divided. So this means that they are not used with the articles an, or any numbers. Next slide. Now we have examples of them. For example, information. You can't call them informations, or you can't call informations. I got a beautiful animal there, just on the opposite side. So you can't call furnitures. Next slide. Some are also used as plural, but they, like, the word is news. It's not new. It's always news. And the media, as I told you before, medium and media. Next slide. Some more examples are like advice. I would point out here that most of the some of the learners, they write advisc. With an s letter is a verb which is used as an action. For example, I advised him. But here with ce is a noun. So always remember there's a difference between advice with c and advise with s. With us it is a verb. And this one is a noun. Behavior. Next. Data or data. Equipment, as I told you, it's never equipments. Evidence, it's when you say evidence, it's like s sound at the end. Evidence, evidence. Health. So that's the end of the today's lesson now. So next slide, please. I hope you liked my video, and I hope you do know now that how many types of nouns are there and the 10 categories. So if you really like the video or you have an understanding about what are nouns, I would really request you to give it a like and subscribe to my video. I'll be coming up with another video how to use noun and how you use it as a subject or as an object, and what are pronouns, what are personal pronouns, what are subjective pronouns. I'll be using all these, I'll be telling you about all these things in the next videos. Till then, have a goodbye.